In the field of clock and watch repair, there are many varieties of tools which are used, many that are specifically made for the sole purpose of clock and watch repair alone. Tools such as mainspring winders, mainspring clamps, movement test stands, beat amplifiers, and regulators, to name a few. But the majority of tools used are basic tools which you probably already have in your home: screwdrivers, pliers, wrenches, hammers, and so on. But often there's jobs that require special type of tool that either isn't readily available or may not even exist on the market at all. In which case, the clock repairman may modify or adapt an already existing tool to aid him in his work. Many of the older clocks will have what is called a taper pin to hold and secure the clock hands onto the face of the clock. Quality may not be quite as good, but you can see the taper pin, which is right here. It runs through the arbor and holds this washer and the hands in place. Now, one way that you could remove that pin is you could take a pair of pliers and place one end underneath the pin and the other kind of rested on the arbor and push up with it and push it up and out. Or another way you could do is to maybe grasp one end like that and just pull it out. Those two methods would work, but a taper pin is already a pretty thin piece of metal, so you run the risk of bending it or even breaking it. So one of these types of tools that can actually be modified to aid in removing that taper pin are these. And I know these look like just a basic pair of pliers, but what I did with these is, if you can see right there, is I actually filed a little groove into the jaws of the pliers on that end, and then on the other end here, I actually filed the teeth away completely. That smooth surface right there actually helps for when you go to remove the pin, because you don't want the teeth of the jaws actually marring or scratching up the pin. But the way that these work and the way they make removing this pin a lot easier, I'm going to try to do this to where you can see it, is if you get that, fit that groove in there and you push up from the bottom, and it just pops it right out. And then whenever you go to reinstall it, you just reverse the process. And I apologize for the angle here and the shakiness. I'll have to invest in a good camera and a tripod at some point. But whenever you go to reinstall the pin, you just reverse the pliers, flip them over to where your groove is on the bottom and the smooth side is on the top. And you press down. And that is an example of a wrench that has been modified to be used as a taper pin remover. Now I'll show you another simple tool that has been modified for use in clock repair in just a second. This second modified tool is essentially just a slotted screwdriver, which I used a Dremel rotary tool to file a groove into this slotted end of the screwdriver. The reason for this type of tool modification is whenever you have certain movements, for instance, and let's say you have a rod or a lever down in here inside the movement that is bent a particular way, well, you can use that slotted screwdriver to reach down in there and maybe straighten that bent rod or lever into position to where you wouldn't have to remove the movement plates and disassemble the movement in order to do so.